All right, so we're now recording today's RFQ Q&A for the Mary Kyle Hartson Square landscaping project. Probably the most important thing to note is that we issued an addendum yesterday, and it's a very important addendum for the folks that are in this RFQ, that are looking at this RFQ, because the council has decided that they want to give precedence or preference to a design build firm that can do both, build the building and do the landscaping. So that means that there's some scoring that's been included that now accounts for whether or not you're bidding on both RFQs or not. And if you're if you're a landscape architect and you don't do that other type of work, I would suggest that you go and watch the video for the 10 o'clock once I'm able to post it, and get the list of the people that are interested in bidding and reach out to them, or find folks that you already have relationships with and partner up. You don't have to. The council hasn't said that they will only issue it to someone that can combine the two projects, but the idea is that there was a $2.5 million budget that was coming to us from an outside source, and the council split the monies between the two projects. But if the two projects are married together, there's some opportunity for some flexibility in funding for, the landscaping and the building. So maybe the building needs a little bit more and the landscaping needs a little bit less, or what have you. But that, therefore, they desired to encourage a design build team to bid on both and to try to bring both in their packet. So what that means is at least half the people on this call right now, maybe not quite that many since we've had a few more people trickle in after the start time, were on the 10 o'clock call, and they are architect or design firms that are here to listen to the Q&A, but also are here to look at the design teams that were interested in the RFQ only of the landscaping. So maybe there's some opportunity to partner up. That's kind of what I want to make sure that everybody that is landscape architect only is aware of. Okay, so how did we get to where we are, and what is the basis of this project? So for a long time now, the city of Kyle has been investing in the downtown, and we spent $3 million on the initial streetscape along Center Street, which is where City Hall is. We spent over $3 million building City Hall on the location of a burned down structure that used to be kind of the heart of the community. It was called Bonton Meat Market. And it was on the corner of Front and Center, which has kind of always been a fun joke around here. But that's where City Hall is now, is on the corner of Front and Center. So $3 million for that. Then we restored the what we called the old City Hall, but is essentially the Krug Activity Center now. We restored that with another $1.5 million budget. Then we're rebuilding Burleson Road, which is the road that is on the west side of the square. So that's a block of Burleson that got rebuilt and the streetscape got added into. We have spent money turning the old planter that was at City Hall back into a fountain, which is what it was originally. The fountain quit working, so they filled it in and planted stuff in it. So we spent quite a bit of money doing that and putting in a new marquee. So really, there has been this desire to beautify the downtown area and to continue to improve. We have seen private dollars flow in, most notably the Barton building, which hosts the Haze Free Press, was rebuilt on a site where a previous historical building had been, the brick 2-story type had been and burnt down, and they rebuilt that. And then a block south of the square on the east side, what we call the Howry building was built. That's also a 2-story brick building. But historically, our square has been a very, it's not typical, it's an atypical square where there was a city building in the middle of the square, but around the square was not commerce. It was mostly homes. So with the exception of Center Street, which is the main thoroughfare and is also a state highway, The other three sides of the square were homes, or the burnt down building that had been sitting vacant for so long. So now we have two sides of the square commercialized and two sides of the square that are still homes. And the city bought 104 South Burleson, which is the subject of the other RFQ for the building. That is on the west side of the square. And the city intends to fund the construction of another commercial building in that location, which is 2/3 of that block. It's not, we don't have all the property of the block, but it's about 2/3 of the block. So during all of that conversation, there has long been a desire to make our square beautiful. And by beautiful, I mean like top of the line, way out above and beyond your typical turf grass and oak trees, which are there, by the way. But making it something that is attractive and desirable and makes people want to get out and experience. And that requires a landscape architect design team and a vision to really push the envelope of what is normal. Now, with that said, we're not silly. We don't think that we can build a tropical oasis in Central Texas either. So, not without it being enclosed anyway, but you get the point. The point is this is much more than planting some dandelions and throwing in some sage and calling it a day. This is something that's meant to be substantial, and that's why the budget reflects what it does. So that's kind of the genesis of how we got to where we are. The council wants to go out to bid for this and to make it happen and be under construction by November. That's a hard deadline. It's probably the best time of the year to start doing a lot of the landscaping anyway. There are some things that are better put off to the spring, but the square is not irrigated. It would need to be irrigated as part of the proposal. Most, if not all, of the existing heritage trees should remain. There's no reason to remove those or cut those down. The square itself is historical, so you need to check the historical archives or records and identify the structures that are contributing. The bell tower in and of itself is not, but the bell is. Strangely enough, the sidewalks that crisscross the square, if you look at it from the air on Google Maps or the map or the picture that I attached, you can see that the sidewalks crisscross, and those are added as contributing. We as an organization are thinking about making an argument to have those removed as contributing, because the historical story that we've been told, I'm not from Kyle. I've lived here for over 15 years, but I'm not from here. But the historical narrative that's been passed down is that those were done to represent the Confederate flag. And if we can utilize this opportunity to remove those as a contributing factor, if it betters the design of the square for our modern times and the design of the landscaping, then you're not going to have pushback from the council to do that. I'm not saying that there's necessarily a desire to just rip them out and do something different. It's not like it's a civil issue here in our community or a discussion right now. But if there's an opportunity to remove those to do something better, and we can leverage the current situation and the civil discourse and that's going on, then we support that idea. Short of that, the building, the old historic, city, the Krug Activity Center, but the old City Hall, the historic City Hall, it is listed as historic, and we have maintained the Spanish mission style of the outside and have very carefully renovated and restored the inside. So the building is done. Really, this is about the greenscapes and and what I call the prettyscape. So stone art. You can include art in these designs, whether that be sculptures or water features or what. In fact, you should include water features beyond what we have, if you can, or if you think it's appropriate. So really, whatever you can think of, the sky's kind of the limit. The example that was thrown around in like pop and wow was like the Bellagio Conservatory, and I know that that's all indoors and what have you, and I'm sure we're not willing to spend $300,000 a year on maintenance and upkeep either. So there, you do have to be reasonable in where you draw the line, but just know that there is a lot of interest in wow, in the wow factor. It should be functional, absolutely, and there shouldn't be plantings in every square foot, because the square does still get used for uh, oh shoot, like the little market days and things like that. We still utilize the market for that. So you don't want to have everything planted everywhere, but entry signage could be a part for sure, and so on and so forth. So I think that gets us the introduction stuff out of the way. I think now I'd like to turn it over for Q&A. So Trent, since you're the only one that has your camera up, I'm going to let you go first. And then the rest of you, if you're only called in on your phone, you're not going to be able to see the chat, and that's fine. But if you are here with the software and you can post in the chat, that's okay. Type it there. I'll look at it. Otherwise, I'm going to call on everybody and kind of go down the list. So let's start with Trent.
No questions right at this point right now. Interesting project for sure, and I think you guys will do well by joining the two projects with a single GC. I think you'll see some good cost savings that way. So I think give you kudos for being forward thinking on that. So.
Well, good. My concern is that like some of the smaller design firms that might have bid on this are going to get left out because they can't compete with.
Correct.
They can't provide the other service. Not that they can't compete.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage if whether that be whether that be directly relevant to you or anybody on this call, that you look at the other people who are attending this call and you look at the ones that were on the 10 o'clock and you reach out and you start putting your heads together and making your proposals work that way.
For sure. No, we're definitely going to be looking for some good teaming opportunities.
Okay. I know and we also want to encourage the use of local contractors if and when we can, the purchase of local materials if and when we can. So any of that kind of stuff that gets into the bids is a big bonus. Like we have this doesn't apply necessarily to landscaping, but we have a truss company in town. So even like building the frames of a building and stuff like that could all be locally sourced. So while we're not specifically looking for particularly, I don't know, lead type stuff on the buildings, but in the landscaping, we don't have any particular requirements. We definitely want the concept of public space, the type of place that pulls people, that if I was driving by it in my car oblivious to its existence, if I saw it, I would feel obligated to stop and get out. That's what we're going for. And I think it can be done. I've seen some amazing things done with landscaping and public art. Is there a survey or geotech for the site? There's probably a survey, probably. I don't believe that there's geotech because we haven't really done anything on the site that would have required a geotech up to this point. I don't know. And I mean, as far as like the environmental surveys and those types of things, I don't really think you have to worry about that so much, but I don't know how much geotech you would need to have on a landscape project. You could always just remove dirt and fill back in with, preferential soils and whatnot. So, but if you feel like it's needed and it needs to be a part of the project, then it would just be consumed by the budget. And that was Courtney's question. So when I get to Courtney, if you have more, you can ask more questions, Courtney. All right, let's start going down the list then. Christina Anderson, you're the first one that's in my window here. I guess I should probably go alphabetical though, but go ahead, Christina. I'll let you ask anything that you got.
My question is because they're separate RFQs, are you looking for the same kind of team setup? Like, are you looking for an architect to prime on the building RFQ and then the landscape architect who is teamed with that on that one to be the prime for the second RFQ for landscape?
It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay.
If that works best internally, then go for it. But it doesn't
Okay.
have to be. Yeah.
Okay. That's my only question.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, Christina, it may be beneficial to have two, primarily
Mhm.
because of the schedule.
Right.
So if you come in and say, hey, we've got a landscape architect, and they're going to work closely together. So that's the one thing you want to be careful of, is that the vision gets carried through. Although
Right.
the building may be being programmed by this landscape architect and the square may be being programmed by this one.
Okay.
If you're doing that, just make sure that there's consistency in the designs and that the two are working together. But because of schedule, you might be better off doing it that way. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. Amanda, you are first alphabetically.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, my main question is just about the project itself. I know that you spent some time talking about comparing it to like Bellagio size and just how you want it to be a public space where people are engaged. And I just was curious if you visited any places recently in your research to compare it to as far as other downtown cityscapes that you just thought, wow, this is amazing.
I'm not sure that. So one, this isn't my baby. I'm the one that's the staff liaison, but like I didn't have the vision to go do this. The council has some thoughts for sure, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share it, with the team. But
Okay.
I haven't been told that there's a particular square or other city, asset, facility, what have you, that they are just wowing and that they're wanting to emulate or copy.
Okay.
What the main takeaway that I had in my conversation with the mayor and the small group of council members that are assigned to this is, when they were talking Bellagio is just, yeah, everybody knows whenever you look at those pictures, that's like wow, right? Wow, that's like way high on the wow factor.
Right.
And that's what they wanted to impress, is that this is not meant to be just pretty, it's not supposed to be just functional. It's not supposed to be pretty functional. It's supposed to be wow. So the best thing I could say is you will have to find the right line between functional and practical, right? And beautiful. So all three of those things kind of have to match, because if we have, like my example before, if we have a square that's all tropical plants and we live in a semi-arid zone, we're going to spend so much money watering them and waste so much water watering them. Is it worth it? So, so with the exception of, what you can accomplish in a semi-arid area that's irrigated, I do think that you kind of have an open book to be very creative and not to be a bookend on what we're expecting.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not sure who the phone number is. You've popped up to the top, but it's 5360 is the last four digits.
That's me, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Okay, well,
Yeah.
why don't you go ahead and go, since I have your phone number up at the top.
Yeah. So kind of piggyback off of Christina's question around if the design build team pursues the building RFQ and this RFQ, I'm assuming they would submit with the same team. But my assumption was they would be led by a contractor because it's a design build. Is that accurate?
Like who's going to be the GC?
I guess the prime.
The prime.
Yeah, that the prime submitter would be the GC.
It could be either. So
Okay.
I did design build before, and the bidder was the design team, but they had their contractor with them.
Right.
And
Okay.
and we also had most of them were contractors that brought their designers with them. That was true, but for whatever reason, I don't think that there's a specific right way of doing it. I think it has more to do functionally with what is going to work best in your particular circumstance and situation. And here's what I mean by that. The whole point of doing design build was to speed up the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So we want design teams that already have relationships with contractors and vice versa, who already have back channels and have already worked together and already have rapport and can deliver and can make this thing move and can deliver. That's what we're after. Now, if that means that it's the design team that's the prime bidder, so be it, as long as you have your contractor on board and you're bringing them along.
Okay. And I probably should ask this on the previous call because it's less relevant on this call, but because of it being design build, will there be the requirement for the third party owner's representative firm? And is that being?
We're not going to use a firm. Well, I don't remember, and I'll have to go back and check the code. So I know there has to be a city rep, and that doesn't have to be a third party, and we've assigned that to be the city engineer. Now, if there has to be a third party rep too, I'm not familiar with that because we didn't do that, I don't think, in the last design build we had. We just had, and that was Spoglass and Marmon Mock. And then our city engineer at the time was a third party engineer, and we used them as the city's rep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But the right answer is, Elizabeth, whatever the law requires, we will do.
Yeah,
so,
I got you.
Yeah, that's exactly what we will do. So.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, Courtney.
I don't think I have any other questions.
Okay. Well, thank you for being over here. Edmondson Reed. Oh, he's got one in text, or it may not be a he, but is demo for existing site structure expected in our budget for both parts of the project, or is it something the city will take care of? Demo is expected, and I guess the demo is more relevant to the 104 South Burleson than it is to the square, unless we're demoing the sidewalks. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, Eric?
Nope, nothing for me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Jesse didn't have any questions. Natalie.
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to confirm that you guys want two separate SOQs, right? You don't want one package with both of them. You want two separate proposals.
I think I would want one proposal, but I think legally I have to get two because I did two RFQs. So okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe you do just one and you submit them for both. I don't know, but I don't want to make this more complicated and difficult on y'all's side to where it's costing you more money to bid. That's not my intent or my interest, but the council decided after I had issued the RFQs that they wanted them to be combined, and giving preference to bidding for both was the only way we could come up with doing it without having to pull the RFQs and then reissue them and re-advertise them again. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sam?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, James.
Okay, great. And I think, is there anybody else that I missed? I think I got everybody, but the list kind of changes around on me at times. Okay. If you have other questions, Trent had to bail. He had to go to another call, so he's gone. But if you have other questions or any other things that you need to think, or that you think of that you need to ask, feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I will be making this recording available on the website under the RFQ area for this particular project. I really am encouraged by the interest that you guys have shown, and I hope that if you are just a landscape design firm and you are hoping to only bid on this, I hope you're able to find a partner to put in bids and proposals together with, to make sure that your stuff works together. I really don't want people to be left out because of the way that the council has decided to go, but I am encouraged, and I do know that there's lots of opportunities out here. So there's going to be more things coming down the pipeline too. So make sure you keep your eyes open. Thank y'all for everybody being on the call. Any last comments or issues? I'm watching the chat window. I'm not seeing anything move. And since I can't see any of you, I can't see your faces. So, oh, look, Jesse popped in just because I said I couldn't see him.
That's right.
but I can't see y'all, so I can't tell if you're like trying to unmute yourself or anything else. So I'll just
So
pause a
because
second.
this is public space, there's obviously allocated funds for it. So that means there's going to have to be design within budget. Are there any, and I know this question has presented before, so I'm just going to ask it separately or differently. Are there any local Central Texas parks that you have seen that you maybe want to emulate? Because I Googled the Bellagio and I was like, wow, that's indoors. That's impressive.
Well, it's in the desert, so it's definitely indoors. Yeah.
So it's possibly not replicable in a city town hall or a city square, because it is going to be, well, we do have those bad characters. So we have a lot of public urban parks in San Antonio. So we built a lot of parks to that. So I was just wondering if you had any parks in mind in Central Texas that are
I don't, and quite frankly, I'm not probably the best resource for that. I mean, I've experienced some parks, but like I'm not a park guide to go out and looking at them and assessing them. But here's what I want to say, and I hated to even necessarily say Bellagio because I knew as soon as I said that it would immediately like make you guys like focus in and think that's what it's got to be. That it doesn't need to be the Bellagio. The point is when you walk into the Bellagio, it's an experience. That's what we want. We don't necessarily want it to look like Bellagio or to be those same plants and flowers or whatever else. The point is that I want you guys to understand that this isn't a typical, let's throw in some sage, let's throw in some, some of the fan grass and stuff like that. This is meant to be wow, but within the constraints of what we can do within Central Texas. So this isn't a budget landscape design is what I'm trying to say. This is meant to be impressive, and impressive can be lots of different things in different ways. Uplighting of the trees should just happen. That should just be something you do. The irrigation obviously is going to have to happen. That's something that you do. Maybe you have a bronze sculpture, maybe shoot, I'm going to forget her name now. Not Mary Kyle Hartson, because that's the name of the square, but the author lady, dadgummit, whose home is here in Kyle. Well, whatever. She's famous. You know how that goes. San Antonio Airport has a statue of her, and I can't think of her name, but good gosh, I'm going to kick myself for this later. But the point is that maybe you do bronze sculptures, maybe you do kinetic sculptures, maybe you do other things that aren't necessarily plants, but be creative, be thoughtful, and try to get some wow factor, So yeah, we don't expect an indoor, conservatory botanical garden. That's just not what we're after or what we expect to be able to do. But we definitely want something that is very, very fantastic. That's like the crown jewel of Central Texas in a lot of ways. Of Central Texas scaped space, not natural space. Okay, well, I'm guessing that's it. I haven't seen the chat move at all. So everyone, I appreciate very much your time and being here, and thank you. And if you need to reach out to me, please don't hesitate to ask or to reach out. If you are just a landscape design firm, look at the list of people that are here, look at the list in the 10 o'clock, reach out to those folks, and maybe you can find yourself a partnership. And we definitely want to encourage that as much as possible. And we want to encourage the use of local contractors and materials and those types of things whenever you can source that locally. So thank y'all very much for your interest, and I appreciate y'all's time today. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah, you're
Thanks,
welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.